Welcome back, folks, to the Delt Day of Giving 2024. I'm Vince Russo. Thank you, everyone who has joined us and made the past 36 or so hours truly transformational for Delta Tau Delta. We are on the brink of breaking, I think, our third or fourth goal at this time. A tremendous showing of support from alumni, parents, spouses, friends of the fraternity, staff. Thank you to everyone who's done so much to make this day so incredibly special. There's been so many people who have taken such time and energy to make this a successful day. We are at $273,722 out of our goal of $275,000. So we are knocking on the door, and we have a couple challenges that can help us get over that final hurdle. Big congrats. We were able to close out the 250 donor with Jason Milligan sponsoring that challenge. We're at 267 donors at the moment. And Jason Desai's 2-to-1 match has also been met. So thank you so much to Jason and to both Jasons, actually, for their generosity and for sponsoring those challenges. Chad Miller has offered up a home stretch challenge. So once again, we'll have donations up to $1,000 matched over this final hour of the Delt Day of Giving, thanks to Chad Miller. We also have donor premiums and an opportunity to make your gift, join some recognition societies, get your name in the honor roll of donors, and walk away with some swag as well. We'll be mailing those things out shortly hereafter when the event ends, and we're excited to get those off and running to those that have taken the time to invest in the future of the fraternity. And a shout out to Kappa Iota as we head into the final hour. They are the chapter in the lead for our chapter competition. See if anyone can unseat them as we get closer to the end of this year's celebration. We have our last interview. We'll have one more live update, our celebration at noon to mark the end of the Delt Day of Giving. But in the interim, we have a special guest with us, Andrew Krachek, who is a chapter leadership consultant and soon to be gift officer for the Educational Foundation. He's sticking around staff, has been a tremendous asset for our field staff out in the field. And Andrew, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, hey Vince. Good morning from beautiful Boulder, Colorado. Just flew in last night to actually wrap up my last 3 visits with chapter. So I'll be out here with University of Colorado Boulder, and then Idaho, and then back out to Colorado State.
Well, I certainly appreciate the work that you do as a former consultant myself. I know what that travel looks like and how that can be pretty grueling at times. So appreciate the energy that you continue to keep while bouncing around different chapters on the road. Andrew, you've spent the better part of the past 2 years traveling to over 30 unique Delt chapters. How has that reshaped your view of Delta Tau Delta and our brotherhood overall?
Yeah, definitely. You see just a wide array and variety of chapters and where they're at in their lives and the type of men who are in it. But if there's one common thread, it's that I just feel, well, first off, I'll say I feel much more appreciative of my time in my chapter. I'm starting to feel like a little bit of an old man now that it's reached that 2-year mark. But more than that, having the chance to interact with a lot of these undergraduates and our alumni who are so successful makes me feel so lucky to be a part of an organization, to be surrounded by these successful, brave, intelligent men. I work with undergraduates who started nonprofits, those undergraduates who have fled their home countries to hopefully provide a better life for themselves and their families. Alumni who are CEOs of instantly recognizable brands, and even alumni who just have a deep care and passion for those in their lives and love life in itself. And at the end of the day, that inspired me to become a version of myself every day, and to do better every day. But more than that, I think it reassures me that Delts are going to continue to make a huge impact on society and our landscape.
That's tremendous to hear, and I'm glad you've been able to see so many success stories of undergraduates right here and now and alumni who are doing impactful things, and that you've been able to interact with them and hear those stories. On the flip side of that, though, one question that we always get from alumni is what are the issues that college students face today that you feel that the consultant program is helping to address and help undergraduates work through? And that might not be operational, it might not be something that relates directly to the fraternity, but what is your pulse of what the collegiate experience is like for young men in 2024? And again, how does the consultant program help to elevate those issues and resolve some of that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm definitely part of this generation, that Gen Z. And so, kind of what I've gathered is it seems like communication and problem solving are some of our biggest issues out there right now. And I think a lot of it can be attested to our smartphones, having a lot of these answers right at our fingertips, right? Being able to have some of those critical conversations is something I feel like some of our men are definitely struggling to have, that sense of accountability within a chapter, which makes a fraternity such a great place to exist in. Um, but more than that, I think the problem solving is what we're seeing more and more that we're running into, because at the end of the day, you know, what's really our motivation to sit down and create these unique, fun events, like a philanthropy event, when we can just go on Instagram and look at what the University of South Dakota Delts are doing, and how Pelta Delt was so successful for them. Let's take something like that, rather than just sitting down and thinking about, okay, we have a lot of these greater issues within our chapter, or maybe we have some ideas that we need to work through. How do we really sit down and address those? Um, and I think being able to coach our undergraduates through some of those issues and talk them through it, and understand that's manageable, and it's actually a great thing to sit down and think about it and come up with some of those solutions, is everything. But more than that, the fraternity provides a safe place for them to experiment with that, and maybe it's fail, but then it's to grow and learn from others and see how they can overcome that over time. And I think, the programming that Delta Tau Delta puts on through the help of the Educational Foundation is really critical in that, whether it be emerged through an officer training, or the consultant program, who's actually there, boots on the ground, working through these issues with them in real time.
Appreciate you sharing that, Andrew. One thing that I think really is the nucleus of power of the consultant program is oftentimes those one-to-one connections that the consultant can make in those individual meetings. And while we talk about chapter impact, a lot of times the consultant has incredible impact on those relationships and helping move an individual forward, not even just through the lens of, again, operations and being a proficient officer or member, but that skill building and some of those things that you talked about. Can you share a story of a time you've worked directly with an individual and impacted that individual in a meaningful way?
There's definitely a wide variety, from those 2 a.m. phone calls of, "Hey, I need help and I need a little bit of assistance to get through this," or maybe it's some of those really deeper conversations that you have when you're interacting with an undergraduate officer, that I won't necessarily share because those are their stories, but I'll kind of relay it all back. But for me, I joined Delt as a founding father, and that was my experience. This entire experience would not have been possible if it hadn't been for the consultants who came before me. And that's because of that, the educational foundation that made that happen. But they got me re-involved in, or they got me involved in fraternity life. I never saw myself as being a leader. I was always that follower in the back of the classroom. Never really put my hand up for answers, and was very quiet. I came into college not having a ton of male friends, and um, didn't really know how to navigate that landscape. And more than that, I just never really saw myself going out there and taking a large stance to influence others as well. And the consultants that I worked with gave me that. And so that's one of the biggest reasons why I decided to continue my time with Delt post grad, and become a chapter consultant, was to continue to provide that same experience that I had, and mentorship I had, to those who I now work with. And we've seen that time and time again. Whether it be with the different expansions I've been on, two that easily come to mind are Colorado Boulder and LSU. I know we just wrapped up installing the LSU chapter here, and some of the men shared that they never thought that they would be in a leadership position within a fraternity nor on campus, but all of a sudden Delt gave them that ability too. And it's really helping them discover things about themselves. But more than that, it's also those late night calls and, hey, maybe I'm going through a really tough time and I'm struggling with mental health. I hope I'm that rock for them to kind of rely back on and have some of those conversations with and de-stress, because once again, that's what my consultants were for me.
That's tremendous, and I appreciate you sharing, the power of just someone being there in the room and being able to troubleshoot or help with that development of problem-solving strategies, and just having someone to affirm or validate concerns certainly goes a long way. The consultant program certainly helps not only develop that servant leadership mindset of giving, but I'm sure you've also gained a lot from the consultant experience as a young professional. Tell us a little bit about some of that.
Yeah, kind of like I said, going back to what my generation struggles with, some of those hard conversations can be really tough, right? Um, when I was an undergraduate and serving as vice president and president of my chapter, my consultants worked with me time and time again on how to be able to have those conversations of accountability. Um, and this job has required that. There's a lot of times you'll walk into chapters and it's having some of those difficult conversations saying, we expect more of you. We can see that come from you. You have that potential. You're just not letting yourself rise to that potential. Um, that can be kind of daunting to go in and have, but once you get through it, you can honestly see how big of an impact that having that conversation that maybe somebody else hasn't had with that individual can have with others. And therefore, it's made me feel more confident in that ability to do so. But more than that, I feel like I've been able to walk into any place and have a 30-minute conversation with any person I come across, and that's not something I would have been able to do prior to this job, right? Definitely started with social anxiety, and this has really broken me out of that shell, if nothing else. And of course, there's a lot of soft and hard skills that you get out of this job. Learning how to work with my own schedule and kind of be my own boss while I'm on the road, make sure I'm accomplishing my deadlines and tasks is something that I think is going to be quite invaluable for wherever the road takes me and life takes me down in the future.
And certainly, as you wrap up your experience and transition out, that opens up spots for other young men who might be upperclassmen right this moment to apply and become chapter consultants themselves. What would you say to someone who hears this interview and might have even the faintest interest in learning more or becoming a chapter consultant?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Just do it. It is by far the best experience I think you can have. I was on the airplane last night, and I was actually thinking about just how much this has given me over the past 2 years, especially as these last three visits are coming up. Um, I think it's kind of rare to have a job that can let you be in Indianapolis for the total solar eclipse on one day, and then you're standing on the top of the Flatiron Mountains in Boulder watching the sunrise the very next. And that's kind of an amazing thing within itself. Uh, you can talk about the travel, right? I've done 52,000 miles in a car over the past 2 years and visited 45 different states. And that's amazing. It's given me these amazing experiences visiting different national parks and, sporting events and connecting with my chapter brothers who have moved on to different places in the country. Uh, but really, when you boil that down further, that is such a large impact when you think about it. I've worked with students from about 45 different states, and that's incredible. And there's very few ways that you will be able to see your job have such tangible impacts and have, a student call you up one random day and say, "Hey, I know we talked about this 5 months ago. I did that one little thing that you suggested, and it made a world of a difference." And that is such a rewarding feeling to know that you are giving back to the fraternity that gave you so much. But more than that, it gives you a chance to live within our ritual, right? Be sure that you give back because there are those who follow after you, um, and continue to live with that and make sure that you are leaving a better, Delt a better place than how you found it. And so if you are interested, definitely reach out to Holly Meadows or go to delts.org and look at applying for the consultant program, because not only will you be having these interactions with undergraduates, but you're also surrounded by an amazing team of fellow consultants who have pushed me to become a way better version of myself and have been there for me in my hard times as well. And it's truly another sense of brotherhood that you gain there that I'm forever thankful for.
Andrew, thank you so much for sharing that story and your personal experience. There's a lot of power in that, and hopefully it motivates other young men. I know I can speak from the same experience, brother, that it was a profound experience on my professional and personal growth as a young professional. And those relationships that you create along the way really do last a lifetime. We'll end with this. You've decided to continue your journey. We're thrilled that you're joining us here at the Educational Foundation. Maybe we'll have you standing up here at some point for the next Delt Day of Giving. But what inspired you to stick around here at the central office to continue to want to work on the mission of helping young men connect with the potential for lives of excellence?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it boils down to one last thing again, and it ties back in. I just felt like my time wasn't done yet. Once again, I got so much out of this experience, and I want to continue to give back in any way, shape, and form that I can. Um, but more than that, over the past 2 years, I've seen on a daily basis the power of fraternity, and specifically Delta Tau Delta, right? The impact that it can make on the individuals that are members of it is immense. Um, the programming that we put on through the support of the Educational Foundation is truly transformational. I've heard stories from the men I've worked with where it can be, you know, going to Compass helped me unlock my Clifton strengths that I was able to then take into the classroom, or I was able to take into this job interview that I was able to secure because I just realized what my strengths were. Um, it prepares men for success post college life and lets them have that ability to be successful. But even more than that, it is quite literally saving lives. Some of the programming that we are putting on allows these men to interact with each other and see that Delt is a caring brotherhood that expands past their own chapter and that others want to see them succeed. And, I've even heard the story that's helped get some guys out of really dark places. At each Compass or Emerge or Presex I've been to, at least one of those stories has come out of it. And that is so powerful. And if I can have the ability to have my hand in ensuring that we are continuing to provide those experiences for our undergraduate members and our young men, and for those who are going to come after them, then I'm all on board and I want to do that. And so that's ultimately why I've decided to stick around, and super excited to work with the Educational Foundation and ensure that we're also meeting with our fantastic alumni and hearing from them as well.
Well, Andrew, I just want to thank you one more time for the work that you're currently doing, the work that I know that you'll continue to do, and for joining us here today on the Delt Day of Giving and sharing your story and the power behind it. We really appreciate you making the time to do that amid your busy schedule, your travel, and all the lives that you're impacting through the consultant program.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Vince. I appreciate it. And thanks for all the work that everybody's putting in to help Delt be that premier fraternity experience.
Well said. That was Andrew Krawczyk joining us live from Boulder, Colorado, one of our chapter consultants. We're in the final throes of Day of Giving. Help us reach our final goal. Check out deltsgive.org for remaining challenges, swag opportunities, and our leaderboard. And thank you, as Andrew said, to everyone who's invested in the Delt experience, both today and throughout the year. Our Delta Alpha Kappa members who give recurring gifts, our Forging the Future campaign donors who are investing in important initiatives like scholarships and fellowships, innovation and adaptability, and member programming and support, and those Order of the Sea members that we've talked about so much that do so much of the driving for our annual fundraising efforts to help us be able to invest in those top tier programs that allow young men to have that life-saving experience of knowing they have other men in their lives that care so deeply about them. We'll be back at noon to celebrate the formal wrap-up of the Day of Giving. But thank you all so much for everything you've already given. We'll be back in just a little bit. In the meantime, make sure you stop by deltsgive.org to make your gift and to check out the continued progress of the Delt Day of Giving here in 2024. Welcome back once and all. We're ending Day of Giving. Thank you all so much for your support. We have crushed our goals today. We are just shy of 200,000 on the day. And Kappa Iota, congratulations. You're our winning pastor from North Carolina, John Ford. Millionaire Eddie Harrington, thank you for being our top 3 individual fundraisers. We'll be in touch to get you that swag. And a huge, huge thank you to all the people here up here with me and those behind the scenes as well. Tony's circling around. Steve Vedra's on the road. Nick Zaniga is somewhere in the building. But we have had so much go into this day. There's so many people behind the scenes. So thank you. I'll take my Eclipse glasses off for a second, but thank you to everyone who's helped make this another successful Delt Day of Giving. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to give, to engage. Thank you to those that ponied up for challenges and helped stick their neck out to make this a successful day. Thank you to everyone who provided content, was willing to jump on live interviews. Dylan Pine, Dr. Michael Schonrock, Andrew Krawczyk. Thank you all so much. There's so many people that have taken a real care and compassionate approach to making this day successful. And we couldn't do it without the gratitude and the brotherhood that we have around us here in Delta Tau Delta. So thank you again for helping us raise almost $300,000 in 36 hours to help move the needle for Delta Tau Delta as we head into what's going to be a wonderful summer. And now let's plan a Carnia. Let's get to Cleveland. Thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next year.